in the Andes Mountains sits astride the border of Peru and Bolivia. Today, the lake sits at an altitude of 12,500 feet. The rarefication of the air at that altitude limits the availability of oxygen for the air breather. But around 20,000 years ago, the region was the most oblate region of the earth and supported a population of over 1 million people. Atlanteans of South America built a vast road system. It consisted of 2 parallel highways. One highway ran for 2,235 miles along the coast of South America, and the other highway ran 2,235 miles through the Andes Mountains. Now, both thoroughfares were paved and connected by frequent leaks. They had suspension bridges and tunnels that were cut through solid rock. Now, we're talking about around 20,000 years ago. That's what these people had. These tunnels and bridges that were cut through solid rock, and the entire road system contained about 15,000 miles of surface roads. Now, Spanish conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro, they used to have to study him when we were in school, traveled along the ancient road system when they invaded and conquered the Incas in 1533. At the time of the Spanish invasion, the road system served an area of about 750,000 square miles and about 10 million people. Now, Tiahuanaca in Bolivia, about 30 miles south of Lake Titicaca, is there, and the city was once a port with extensive docks that were positioned on the shore of Lake Titicaca. Now, this city, Tiahuanaca, was built with massive stones. In the 16th century, these are just some of the stones that are in the city. That's the gateway of the city. They call it the gateway of the sun. So at any rate, in the 16th century, Spanish historian Garcilaso de la Vega wrote, "There are walls of stones of which are so enormous, it is difficult to imagine what human force could have put them in place. And there are the remains of strange buildings, the most remarkable being stone portals, hewn out of solid rock that stand on bases anything up to 30 feet long, 15 feet wide, and 6 feet thick. Base and portal being all of one piece. How and with the use of what tools or implements massive works of such size could be achieved are questions of which we are unable to answer. Nor can it be imagined how such enormous stones could have been brought here 20,000 years ago. Now, based on the mathematical and astronomical calculations of Professor somebody of the university in Potsdam and University of La Paz, and another professor of astronomy at the University of Potsdam, they said that the main construction at Tiahuanaco, this city here, took place around 17,000 years ago. Now, this is important. Tiahuanaca contains a huge stone with astronomical symbols that record the state of the heavens 27,000 years ago. Now, that was the approximate date of the founding of Aryan Atlantis. Now, the single block of stone, a red stone, is longer than 24 feet and weighs 20 tons. It was found in the old temple. It has the inscriptions on it are of a superb quality and they are precise. It has hundreds of symbols all over the idol. And H.S. Bellamy and P. Allen have given a closely reasoned interpretation of the symbols in their book, The Great Idol of Tiahuanaca. They concluded that the symbols record an enormous body of astrological knowledge and are based, as a matter of fact, on a round earth. The symbols on the idol exactly record the astronomical phenomena that would accompany this theory at a time when the moon made 425 revolutions around the earth. They are forced to conclude that the idol records the state of the heavens 27 years ago. And they write, generally, the idol inscriptions give the impression that it had been devised also as a record for future generations, and it was. Now the calculations on the great idol record the state of the heavens 27,000 years ago, the approximate date of the founding of Aryan Atlantis, and the beginning of a precession cycle. We're coming to that in the next part. Aryan Atlantis was founded when the earth was an oblate, but the calculations on the stone are based on a fully rounded, rebounded earth like that of the present. The calculations on the great idol were used to calculate the length and closing date of the current Aryan evolutionary cycle. Kalasaki, Sayaka, or something like that, is an area near Tiahuanaca, and it contains raised fields. It was not until the 1960s that the original function of these, the undulating pattern of earth platforms and shallow canals was correctly worked out. They were part of a complex agricultural design that outperforms modern farming techniques. In recent years, some raised fields were reconstructed by archaeologists and agronomists. Okay, the experimental plots consistently yielded 3 times more potatoes than even the most productive conventional plots. During one particularly cold spell, a severe frost did little damage to the experimental field. The following year, the crops on the elevated platform survived a ruinous drought, then later survived a flood. Now, the agricultural technique of ancient times proved so successful that it attracted the attention of governmental and international agencies. Now, this place, Kawasaki, or whatever you call it, also contains structures that served unknown functions. In other words, modern science doesn't know what they were used for. Researchers generally believe that Kalasayaka functioned as a sophisticated celestial observatory. Some of its structures seem to facilitate measurement of the amplitude of the sun. Some appear to be an accurate calendar carved in stone. Structures within its walls and the walls themselves appear to have been aligned to particular star groups. Look at these again. This is a man standing here, and this is the size of that stone. Here's a man standing here, and the size. This one, they just named it, I think they named it Hitching Post of the Sun. I don't know what it is, but it has some particular, and look at the gateway. That is the solid piece, or was a solid piece of stone. This is one of their cities. This is Machu Picchu in the Andes Mountains. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that's such a pretty, to me that's so pretty. And these, we'll get to those. It's in this is Machu Picchu, and northwest of there is Cuzco and another city called Sacsayhuaman, and both of these contain these huge stones. Some of them weigh 200 tons. And they say that one block contained a total of 33 angles, each of which intermeshed faultlessly with a matching angle on an adjoining block. And then there is the Nazca Plateau. Now, they had pictures in the book, but they were of such poor quality, I couldn't get a copy of them to put up there. But this is in the Andes Mountains of southern Peru. Now, it's a strip of level ground, some 37 miles long and a mile or so wide. Now, the plateau is one of the driest places on Earth, and the soil contains enough gypsum to glue small stones to the subsurface. It also contains hundreds of precisely made abstract figures, various geometric designs, and arrow straight parallel lines. Now the artworks were made by scraping away the black volcanic pebbles to expose the desert's paler base of yellow cliff sand and clay. The exposed areas are a few inches deep. This is on the Nazca Plateau. Now the figures are vast drawings of animals and include 18 different kinds of birds. The drawing of a hummingbird is 165 feet long. That of a condor is nearly 400 feet from beak to tail. A 150-foot long drawing of a Ricci-nuclei spider is among the figures. Now, I can't even say the name, but it's one of the rarest spiders in the world, and it's only found in remote and inaccessible parts of the Amazon rainforest. Now, the artist depicted aspects of the spider's anatomy that are only visible under a microscope. Then there's a drawing of a monkey 400 feet long and 300 feet wide, and it's defined by a continuous, unbroken line that without interruption winds up stairs, over pyramids, into a series of zigzags. And there are two types of human figures that are portrayed. One viewer stated that they could not be said to belong to any known era